Hello and welcome to everyone who is watching this live stream event of Magic in the Melanin, a Black Fantasy Anthology. It is officially out in the world. My name is Chelsea, better known as CM Lockhart, and I represent Black Fantasy Art of Nice. And I am here with my wonderful co-editor, Locke Purvis.
Hello everyone, I'm Locke Purvis. I am a contributing editor and author to the Written in Melanin Anthology, and I am a writer of queer Black fantasy romance stories.
Yes, and so this is very nerve-wracking. So if you hear us saying filler words, it's because we're in front of a live audience. But that being said, let's talk a little bit about this anthology, and if you guys are watching this or haven't picked it up, why you should get into it. So if you are unaware, Magic in the Melanin, the Black Fantasy Anthology, showcases us, celebrates us, loves us. So all the authors who contributed also have their own works and things. So if you do like any story, the anthology lets you know what type of story it is, as well as the author and their other works, so you can get into it. So this can be just a kickoff point if you are new to fantasy, or if you're deep into fantasy trench holes, you're like, great, I have some new authors to check out. So that being said, let's start at the beginning. Why did we create this anthology? I talked on it a little bit, but aside from me having a crazy idea and jumping in the group chat and being like, hey, you know what would be great? Why did you say yes? That is the better question.
I said yes because I thought it was a beautiful idea. I really liked the message behind it. I loved the idea of uplifting more Black fantasy authors and their stories, especially ones that we haven't heard so much of, like from in like the usual day-to-day, like when you're scrolling and social media and stuff like that. So I thought it was really cool to bring everybody together and then create this really unique book that I personally haven't seen anywhere else. So I think it was really exciting to just be a part of it. So I couldn't miss up the opportunity.
That's fair. And I'm really proud of this project that has come together because one of the things that I really wanted to do is, because this anthology, for anyone looking at this, is an adult fantasy anthology, and I want to make that clear because specifically when it comes to fantasy, you see a lot in the young adult space. You know, we're very familiar with like Blood at the Root and Legendborn and stories like that get a lot of screen time, which is great. We love that. But also there are writers, Black authors out here writing stories with grown characters doing grown things. So this anthology is part of that showcase. And why don't we tell you guys a little bit about our stories, because I think they're kind of fun. We write completely different things. So just a heads up, I write more in the dark fantasy realm, and she writes fluffy, sunshiny.
We can't say fluffy, sunshiny because then we're misleading people.
She writes about Black mermaids, you guys.
This particular story was, yes, about Black mermaids. It was. And it is it's about this little side character in my main series I will be debuting later this year. It's about a princess of an empire on the eve of her wedding day, and it basically comes out that the guy is not that great, and everybody finds out the night before the wedding, and so then things happen.
It's a little crazy. It's a little wild.
Happens.
But it's got a happy ending, which is why I say she writes fluffy, sunshiny romance, whereas my dark fantasy story is about two middle-aged women, and hopefully you guys will get this reference, but have you guys heard the song Woman to Woman by Shirley Stevens? Mm-hmm. And it starts out, hello Shirley, this is Bob. Hello Barbara, this is Shirley. And so I listened to that and I was like, oh, you know, it'd be great if Barbara and Shirley had to go on an adventure to defeat Crow Gods. They just hate each other. So that's what my story is about. It's about two middle-aged women, Barbara and Shirley, going on an adventure to defeat these corrupt gods, and they have a shared apprentice, and they send him on a mission, and things go left. And and it's about them having to work together for greater good, despite all the things that are lining up. And they're just like, you know what? Par for the course. Par for the course. And our stories aren't the only ones like this. So in this anthology, not only do you have romantic fantasy, you have dark fantasy, you have horror, you have dystopian, you have portal fantasy. There are so many different types. And part of the mission behind the anthology was to help people recognize, especially because we're adults. I mean, we look cute, but we're adults. And one of the things that happens in life is a lot of times you fall out of love with reading at some point, especially when you're young. And you get into all these YA stories, and then you go to college, and then you stop reading for fun because you're reading for school, and then you become an adult, and then life hits you, and it's just like, I want to read again. I loved it, but I don't know what to get back into. And it's like, I like fantasy, but I was scared because you're young. I'm not in high school anymore. My mom's not checking over my shoulder. So we wanted this to reintroduce people to a love of reading where we, as Black people, are centered in our existence, and fantasy doesn't have to be explained, and racism is not touched on at all in any of these 14 stories. So you have like 450 pages of just pure fantasy, and that was really important to us. That said, we talked about why we did this. We talked about our stories. Let's take it a little lighter. What made you start writing in the first place? Because your debut, like your book is getting ready to come out, so this is a little fresher for you and mine.
I know. Honestly, that's such a hard question to answer. Honestly, there's so many reasons. And it's kind of like what you said. I grew up loving to read. I was really into reading growing up. And then at some point, I started to fall out of love with it. And then one day was just like, well, what if I just tried it? What would happen if I just slipped and I started? And I would, be a kid in school, it's not paying attention to class because I'm sitting there writing when I should be. And
I'm admitting to be that student. The live stream.
Hey, that was me. It was me. I'm not condoning it. I'm just saying that's what I did. And it was just a way for me to just be able to express what I wanted to in the way that I wanted to. And it made me happy doing it.
I mean, I support that. For those of you who don't know me, one of the things I do is I'm a recondo everything in my life. Does it bring me joy? And if it doesn't, it has to go. But if it does, it has to stay for the time being. So I understand where you're coming from, where it's like, oh, this is kind of fun. I like this. I'm gonna stick with it.
A whole new world.
It's a whole new world. Okay. Let's pretend like I did not
Yeah, that's what we do. We apologize in advance. Let's just we can't help that.
I have an option of being here, It's kind of exploring what that looks like in different ways for different people. And then also what a world would look like when it's like the question of, is God real? Is not a question. It's like, it's real. How are you going to interact with that? For me, it's kind of like what you mentioned earlier about, being able to test the waters and explore things, right? So when I was writing, I was like, okay, let's explore what this looks like. What does it feel like? What does it sound like? What does it move like? How does that reflect in how people navigate their lives? And, also the idea of, in cultures, people have explanations for everything. And sometimes it makes sense, it's like the creation method. Some people believe in the Big Bang. Some people believe God worked for 6 days and rested on the 7th, right? So in my book, it's like everybody has their own reasons that the gods did things, or why do we do this, or like how do we celebrate important things like getting married or deaths, things like that. So I guess very long-winded, because I told you I was going to It's the real world brought in from how we actually create things, know things, and understand them, and then taking those things, putting them in a fantasy aspect,